Mudras. Origins, Science, and the Complete Guide to Sacred Hand Gestures. Personal Reading Series, Haligricity IQ Productions. Available at Haligricity IQ. Introduction. What is a mudra? The word mudra comes from Sanskrit, the classical sacred language of ancient India. Its root carries layered meaning. Mud means joy, delight, or that which pleases. Ra means to give or produce. Together, mudra translates most directly as that which brings joy, though it is also rendered as seal, gesture, or mark. In its fullest sense, a mudra is a sacred seal of intention impressed upon the body, the energy field, and the consciousness simultaneously. A mudra is not merely a hand position. Across the traditions that developed and preserved this art, mudras are understood as energetic circuits, deliberate configurations of the fingers, hands, body, or face that redirect the flow of prana, influence the nervous system, stimulate specific organ systems, and shift states of awareness. They are the body speaking in a language older than words. Though the word is Sanskrit, and mudras are most associated with Hindu and Buddhist practice, the underlying principle that deliberate body positioning carries energetic consequence appears across virtually every sacred tradition on earth. The raised hand of blessing in Christianity, the specific hand positions of Egyptian deity statues, the clasped palms of Islamic prayer, all of these are, in essence, mudras. What the Indian traditions gave us was a systematic, named deeply documented science of the gesture. Part 1. Origins, where mudras come from, the Vedic roots. The earliest textual references to mudras appear in the Vedas, the oldest layer of sacred Sanskrit literature, composed orally between roughly 1500 to 1000 BCE and later written down. The Rig Veda and Athar Veda contain ritual gesture instructions connected to fire ceremonies, invocations, and healing rites. These earliest mudras were priestly. They belonged to the domain of the Brahmin ritualist, who needed precise body configurations to call down specific divine forces. The Vedic worldview held that the human body is a microcosm of the universe. The 5 fingers correspond to the 5 elements: thumb to fire, index to air, middle to space ether, ring to earth, and little finger to water. To arrange the fingers was to arrange the elements, to perform cosmology through the body. Tantric systematization. The great systematization of mudras happened within tantric traditions, beginning roughly in the 5th to 7th century CE. Tantric texts, the Agamas, Tantras, and later the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, formalized mudra practice as a technology of awakening. Here, mudras were understood to seal prana inside the body, directing it upward through the Sushumna Nadi towards states of expanded consciousness. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika, composed by the Yogi Swapmarama around 1400 CE, is one of the most important classical texts on mudra science. It describes 10 primary mudras, including Mahamudra, Kichari, Viparita Karani, and Vajrali, as physical energetic locks far more complex than simple hand positions. Many of the full-body mudras of classical Hatha Yoga are essentially advanced kriyas involving breath, bandhas, and specific postures held simultaneously. Buddhist transmission. Buddhism absorbed and formalized hand mudras extensively, developing one of the most visually recognizable mudra systems in the world. The hand positions of the Buddha in sculptural and painted form, the teaching gesture, the earth-touching gesture, the meditation gesture are called hasta mudras, and carry precise iconographic and metaphysical meaning. Buddhist mudra traditions spread from India through Central Asia along the Silk Road into China, Japan, Korea, Tibet, and Southeast Asia, where they were absorbed into local spiritual vocabularies and developed further. Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism developed an extraordinarily elaborate mudra system tied to deity visualization practices. Japanese Shingon Buddhism preserves some of the most complete tantric mudra sequences transmitted from 8th century India via the monk Kukai. Bharatanatyam and the classical dance heritage. A parallel and enormously rich mudra tradition developed within Indian classical dance, most fully articulated in the Natya Shastra, the ancient Hindu treatise on performing arts attributed to the sage Bharata Muni, composed between 200 BCE and 200 CE. The Natya Shastra catalogues 28 single-hand gestures and 24 combined gestures, each with specific names, formations, and narrative meanings. These dance mudras, used in Bharatanatyam, Odissi, Kathakali, Kuchipudi, and other classical forms, are a full language. A trained dancer can narrate complete stories, invoke deities, describe nature, and express the full range of human emotion using hands alone. This is mudra as living scripture performed in the body. Hasta Mudra Vigyan, the classical medical system. The medicinal application of hand mudras developed as its own branch of Ayurveda and yoga, known as Hasta Mudra Vigyan. Its central premise is that the 5 fingers represent the 5 elements and the 5 Ayurvedic doshas, and that deliberate finger contact creates circuits that correct elemental imbalances in the body. The systematization of therapeutic mudras is attributed in large part to a lineage of Jain monks, particularly within the Digambara tradition, who documented healing mudras over many centuries. The text, Garanda Samhita, describes 25 mudras specifically for awakening kundalini and mastering prana. Contemporary therapeutic mudra literature draws heavily from these classical Jain and Ayurvedic sources. The scholar and practitioner Acharya Keshavdev in the 20th century is credited with bringing therapeutic hand mudras, particularly prana mudra, apana mudra, and vayu mudra, into widespread modern health practice through his clinics and writings in northern India. This work was later by authors like Gertrude Hirsch in Hindu Aurora, Mudras Beyond India. While the most elaborated mudra science comes from the Indian subcontinent, deliberate sacred gesture appears across cultures. Ancient Egypt, deity statues and tomb paintings consistently show specific hand positions that Egyptologists identify as iconographically significant. The raised open palm signifies divine protection. Crossed arms on the chest signify sovereignty over death and resurrection. These positions were not random, they were held to activate the presence of the divine quality they represented. Christianity. The raised right hand with 2 or 3 fingers extended is the classical blessing gesture found from early Byzantine iconography to the present day in Catholic and Orthodox traditions. Medieval liturgical hand positions during Mass were formalized and precise. The clasped hands of prayer create a contained circuit often interpreted esoterically as sealing one's energy for communication with the divine. Indigenous Americas. Many Native American ceremonial traditions include precise hand positions in healing ceremonies, prayer dances, and ritual contexts. Among Pueblo people, specific hand gestures during Kachina ceremonies carry sacred communicative meaning. Chinese Taoism, Taoist ritual includes mudra-like finger interlockings called ju, or finger knot mudras, used in internal alchemy and in the rituals of Taoist priests. These are directly analogous in purpose to Indian mudras, sealing energy and invoking specific spiritual forces. Islam, the position of the hands in Salah is precise and considered spiritually significant. During Tashahhud, the right index finger is raised to signify the oneness of Allah, a gesture of intention and declaration made through the body. The consistent appearance of deliberate sacred gesture across unconnected traditions suggests that the mudra principle, that the body position shapes the energy and consciousness within it, is not culturally invented but discovered, again and again, by traditions attuned to the body's intelligence. Part 2. The science of mudras. Modern neuroscience, psychology, and clinical research have begun to provide empirical frameworks for understanding why mudras work. The evidence base is growing, though still young. What follows is an honest account of what science has found and what remains to be fully demonstrated. The hand-brain connection, neurological basis. The most foundational scientific evidence for mudra effectiveness comes from neuroanatomy. The hands occupy a disproportionately large region of the somatosensory cortex, the brain's map of body sensation. In the famous Penfield homunculus, the hands take up nearly as much cortical space as the entire torso. The fingers are among the most densely nerve-innervated surfaces of the human body. This means that engaging the fingers in specific configurations directly stimulates large regions of the brain. Different finger combinations activate different cortical areas, which in turn influence the neural networks associated with emotion regulation, motor planning, executive function, and autonomic nervous system states. Traditional mudra science maps specific fingers to specific organ systems and elements. Modern neuroscience offers a parallel map through cortical representation. Reflexology and acupressure meridian points. Traditional Chinese medicine identifies 14 primary meridians through which qi flows. 10 of these 14 meridians begin or end in the fingertips. From this perspective, mudras function similarly to acupressure. Pressing specific fingers together or against specific points on the hand stimulates the meridian system, affecting the organs and functions that meridian governs. Reflexology maps of the hand also show specific zones corresponding to each organ system. The thumb's base relates to the lung, the index finger to the large intestine, the middle finger to the pericardium and circulation, the ring finger to the triple warmer, the little finger to both the heart and small intestine meridians. When a mudra brings these fingers into contact with specific pressure points, it is stimulating these meridians simultaneously. Clinical research findings. Scientific research on mudras has been conducted primarily in India with a growing body of peer-reviewed studies. Key findings include stress reduction and the autonomic nervous system. A 2019 study published in the International Journal of Yoga found that 45 minutes of Gyan mudra practice combined with pranayama produced significant reductions in cortisol levels and improved HRV in healthy adults. HRV is a primary marker of parasympathetic nervous system activation, the rest and digest state associated with healing and recovery. Cognitive function. A 2013 study examined the effects of Gyan mudra on spatial memory and found statistically significant improvements in test subjects after regular 4-week practice. The hypothesis, Gyan mudra's activation of the index finger, stimulates neural pathways associated with the frontal lobes, where executive function and working memory reside. Anxiety and depression. Research from the Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge has documented Apana mudra and prana mudra's effects on anxiety symptom reduction in clinical populations over 8 to 12-week intervention periods, with results comparable to standard relaxation training protocols. Blood pressure. Multiple small clinical trials have shown that Gyan mudra combined with diaphragmatic breathing produces measurable reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure within 20 to 30 minutes of practice. The mechanism appears to be activation of the vagus nerve through the combined effect of focused attention, regulated breathing, and finger point stimulation. Pain management. A 2017 study on Vayu mudra and joint pain found that daily practice over 6 weeks produced significant self-reported pain reduction and improved range of motion in participants with mild to moderate arthritis, theorized to work through the Vayu element's relationship to movement and the nervous system. Neuroplasticity. The motor cortex devotes extensive real estate to hand movements. Neuroplasticity research confirms that repetitive, deliberate hand configurations strengthen specific neural pathways over time, meaning consistent mudra practice does, literally, rewire the brain over weeks and months. From my research, what strikes me about the science is not just what it proves, but how it describes what practitioners have always known from the inside. The cortical map of the hand, the meridian endpoints at the fingertips, the vagal activation through focused breath and gesture, these are modern names for something very old. The tradition named it prana. Science is learning to name it too. Embodied cognition. The body as mind. Modern cognitive science has moved dramatically toward what is called embodied cognition. The recognition that the mind does not live only in the brain but is distributed throughout the body. Body posture, facial expression, and hand position all influence cognitive and emotional states, not just as byproducts of the mental state, but as co-generators of it. Amy Cuddy's research on power poses demonstrated that holding expansive body postures for 2 minutes produced measurable hormonal changes and behavioral shifts. Specifics of this study have been debated in replication. The broader principle that body configuration shapes neurochemistry has been supported across multiple subsequent studies. Mudras are essentially precision-tuned versions of this principle, developed over millennia of empirical refinement. Part 3. What mudras help with. Formation: bring all 5 fingertips of both hands to touch each other, right touching left, finger by finger. Below are the primary categories of benefit documented across classical texts, clinical research, and centuries of practitioner experience, each followed by the specific mudras that address it. Mental clarity, focus, and memory. Gyan mudra formation: touch the tip of the index finger to the tip of the thumb. Extend the remaining 3 fingers. Effect: the most widely researched mudra, associated with the air element, calms mental chatter, sharpens concentration, and is used before study, meditation, and creative work. Hold for 15 to 45 minutes during meditation. Effect: stimulates both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously through bilateral finger contact. Used for recalling information, synthesizing ideas, and strengthening memory. Many people do this instinctively when trying to remember something. The fingers rise toward each other. This is a mudra that the body reaches for on its own. Meridanda mudra. Formation: extend the thumb upward while closing the 4 fingers over it gently. Both hands. Effect: said to activate the spinal column and the central channel of energy. Used to increase alertness and vertical energy, the feeling of being fully upright and present. 2. Stress, anxiety, and nervous system regulation. Apana Vayu mudra formation. Fold the index finger to touch the base of the thumb. Touch the tips of the middle and ring fingers to the tip of the thumb. Little finger extended. Effect: one of the most powerful therapeutic mudras in Ayurvedic tradition. Activates the downward clearing energy and simultaneously supports heart function. Used traditionally for anxiety, palpitations, and in emergency situations of heart stress. Often called the first aid mudra. Clinical studies have shown it reduces both heart rate and perceived anxiety within 15 minutes of sustained hold. Prithvi mudra. Formation: touch the tip of the ring finger to the tip of the thumb. Extend the remaining fingers. Effect: activates the earth element, grounding, stability, physical nourishment. Used for anxiety rooted in insecurity or disconnection from the body. Also used for fatigue, weight management, and skin vitality. The ring finger's connection to earth gives this mudra a deeply settling quality. It is the hand gesture version of planting your feet. Abhaya mudra formation: right hand raised to shoulder height, palm facing outward, fingers together and pointing up. Effect: one of the oldest mudras in recorded history, seen in pre-Buddhist Indian art and across Buddhist iconography. The mudra of the Buddha and many Hindu deities offering protection. Used by the practitioner to cultivate the internal state of fearlessness, palm open and facing outward, says, both physically and energetically, I am not threatened. I do not threaten. Powerful for panic attacks when held while focusing on the breath. Pushin mudra. Formation: right hand, tips of thumb, index and middle fingers touch. Left hand, tips of thumb, middle, and ring fingers touch. Effect: name for Pushin, the Vedic deity of nourishment and safe passage. The 2 hands carry different energetic charges. The right hand receives, the left hand releases. Used specifically for digestive anxiety, the knot in the stomach, nausea from stress, inability to eat or assimilate when overwhelmed. Also supports the adrenal system. 3. Energy, vitality, and immune strength. Prana mudra. Formation: touch the tips of the ring finger and little finger to the tip of the thumb. Extend the index and middle fingers. Effect: considered one of the most important health mudras in classical practice. Activates and amplifies prana in the body, the root life force. Used for chronic fatigue, immune deficiency, low vitality, and weakness during illness or recovery. Also brightens the eyes, and is used in traditional texts as a vision-supporting mudra. Can be practiced for up to 30 to 45 minutes daily. Many practitioners hold it during evening meditation as an immune toning practice. Surya mudra. Formation: fold the ring finger down to touch the base of the thumb. The thumb gently presses on top of it. Effect: activates fire in the body by suppressing earth. Increases metabolic rate, body warmth, and digestive fire. Used for sluggishness, weight management, low body temperature, and poor circulation. Because it stimulates the fire element, it is warming and should be used with awareness by those who already run hot. Varun mudra formation. Touch the tip of the little finger to the tip of the thumb. Extend the remaining fingers. Effect: balances the water element in the body. Used for skin conditions, dehydration at the cellular level, joint issues, and kidney support. The skin is the body's largest organ of water regulation. This mudra has a long traditional association with restoring skin luminosity and moisture balance. 4. Meditation, spiritual opening, and inner vision. Dhyana mudra formation. Rest the left hand in the lap with palm facing up. Place the right hand on top of it, also palm up. Touch the tips of both thumbs gently together, forming an oval. Effect: the classic meditation mudra, seen most iconically in representations of the meditating Buddha. Creates a complete energetic circuit in the lap, containing and deepening the meditative state. The oval formed by the thumbs is said to represent the flame of awareness. This is the mudra that holds meditation rather than initiates it once the mind settles. This formation supports sustained stillness. Chin mudra, Nana mudra. Formation, Chin mudra, index fingertip touches thumb tip, palm facing up. Jana mudra, same finger formation, palm facing down. Effect, the palm up variation says, I am open to receive. The palm down variation says, I know, I am grounded in knowing. Both work with the air element and the opening of higher consciousness. Chin mudra is the mudra of the student, Nana mudra is the mudra of the teacher. Used throughout sitting meditation, pranayama, and mantra practice. Anjali mudra formation, bring the palms together at the center of the chest, fingers pointing upward. Effect, the mudra of reverence, namaste gesture. When the palms press together at the heart center, they create a circuit between the left and right hemispheres, between Ida and Pingala. It is a gesture of integration, presence, and recognition of the sacred, used in opening and closing ceremonies, as a greeting, and as a moment of return to center at any point in practice. Adi mudra. Formation, place the thumb in the palm and fold the fingers gently over it, both hands. Effect, associated with the prenatal state, the position of the fetal hand. Deeply calming and grounding, increases oxygen flow to the brain, quiets the nervous system, and supports the shift into deep meditative states. Used in Kundalini yoga during breath work as a preparation for expanded states. Kalesvara mudra. Formation, middle fingertips touch. First joints of index fingers touch, thumbs touch and point toward the chest, other fingers are bent inward. Effect, a mudra specifically for observing and calming compulsive thought patterns. Said to create a pause in the stream of habitual thinking, creating space between stimulus and response. Practitioners use it to interrupt anxiety loops, addictive thought cycles, and emotional reactivity. Hold for 10 to 20 minutes while focusing on the breath at the nostrils. 5. Physical healing, specific organ systems. Apana mudra formation, touch the tips of the middle and ring fingers to the tip of the thumb. Extend the index and little fingers. Effect, governs the downward clearing energy of the body, elimination, detoxification, menstruation, and release. Used for digestive sluggishness, constipation, urinary difficulty, and for supporting the body's natural detoxification processes. Also used during and after illness to help clear what the body is processing. A powerful mudra for anyone doing deep emotional physical cleansing work. Linga mudra. Formation, interlace all fingers of both hands together. Extend the left thumb upward, encircled by the right thumb and index finger. Effect, generates internal heat. Used traditionally for respiratory infections, bronchitis, and congestion, the internal heat is said to burn away mucus and pathogens. Also used for sluggish immune response in cold, damp conditions. Because it generates heat, it should be practiced with water intake and not held for extended periods by those with fever or inflammatory conditions. Shank mudra. Formation, encircle the left thumb with the forefingers of the right hand. Touch the right thumb to the middle finger of the left hand. The left forefingers rest on the outside of the right fist. Effect, shaped to resemble the sacred conch shell, used in Hindu ritual to produce sacred sound. Used for throat issues, hoarseness, inflammation, thyroid support, speech difficulties. Also used to warm and open the vocal cords before singing, chanting, or any practice of sacred sound. The relationship between the conch mudra and voice is direct and ancient. Brahma mudra. Formation, both hands form fists with the thumbs tucked inside. Press both fists together at the level of the navel. Effect, used in conjunction with neck rotation exercises for cervical spine support. Applied during a specific pranayama sequence in which the head turns fully right, center, left, and up down while the mudra holds steady at the navel. Supports the nervous tissue of the spinal column and is used for throat, thyroid, and neck issues. Vayu mudra. Formation, fold the index finger down to touch the base of the thumb. The thumb gently presses over the index finger. Effect, reduces excess air in the body, used for any condition involving gas, bloating, joint pain, or nervous system hyperactivity. In Ayurveda, excess vata produces anxiety, insomnia, erratic digestion, and joint instability, all areas where Vayu mudra is indicated. Should be released once the condition improves, as sustained practice can eventually over-reduce the air element. Prithvi mudra. Agni mudra for metabolic balance formation, Prithvi. Ring finger to thumb tip. Agni surya, ring finger folded to thumb base, thumb over it. Effect, these two mudras are functional opposites and used together as a metabolic balancing pair. Prithvi nourishes and builds. Surya burns and clears. Used in sequence to support endocrine balance, weight regulation, and the cycle of building and releasing that healthy metabolism requires. 6. Grief, heartbreak, and emotional release. Padma mudra. Formation, bring the hands together at the heart. Keep the base of the palms, the little fingers, and the thumbs touching. Open the remaining fingers wide like a blooming lotus. Effect, the mudra of opening after closure. Named for the lotus that roots in mud and blooms toward light. Used when grief, loss, or heartbreak has closed the heart center inward. The Padma mudra literally enacts the opening. The hands begin closed and unfurl. Practiced with breath directed into the heart space, Garuda mudra. Formation, cross the thumbs with palms facing the body. Spread the fingers wide like wings. Effect, Garuda is the divine eagle, vehicle of Vishnu, symbol of liberation and the breath. This mudra opens the chest cavity, stimulates circulation, and addresses energetic heaviness in the heart and lungs. Used for grief held in the chest, post-heartbreak stagnation, and respiratory constriction from emotional suppression, Rudra mudra. Formation, touch the tips of the index finger and ring finger to the tip of the thumb. Extend the middle and little fingers. Effect, named for Rudra, the fierce, transformative aspect of Shiva, used for emotional heaviness, stuck grief, and energetic congestion in the solar plexus. In Ayurvedic tradition, unprocessed emotion lodges in the solar plexus as a knot of stagnant energy. Rudra mudra is used to move that stagnation. It is not a gentle mudra. It is used when gentleness has not been enough. 7. Sleep, rest, and dream states. Yoga Nidra mudra. Formation, both hands rest face up on the thighs or knees. All fingers relaxed and slightly curled, completely passive. Effect, not a specific finger formation but a state, the hands in total surrender, receiving rather than directing. Used in Yoga Nidra practice as the body enters the threshold state between waking and sleep. The absence of any deliberate mudra is itself a mudra, one of complete release. Chinmaya mudra. Formation, curl the forefingers into a loose fist over the thumb. Hands rest palm upon the knees. Effect, directs prana into the chest and middle section of the lungs. Used before sleep to deepen the breath into the mid-chest, transitioning the respiratory rhythm from waking to resting pace. Supports the shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system dominance. Adimudra formation, thumb inside the palm, forefingers folded gently over it. Effect, the primal fetal hand position. Induces regression into very early nervous system states of safety and surrender. Many sleep researchers and yoga teachers recommend this specifically for insomnia. It appears to engage the oldest, most primitive circuits of safety in the nervous system. Part 4. Beyond the hands, classical full-body mudras. Classical hatha yoga texts describe mudras that involve the entire body, breath, and internal locks. These are advanced practices, not casual daily gestures. They are included here because they represent the full scope of what the mudra tradition actually encompasses, and because hatha yoga is often misunderstood as a system of postures alone. In the classical texts, it is a system of mudras, of which postures are one category. Maha mudra. Formation, sit with one leg extended, heel of the other foot pressed against the perineum. Reach forward and take hold of the extended foot. Apply Jalandhara Bandha. Inhale, suspend the breath, apply Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. Hold, release sequentially. Effect, described in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika as the destroyer of death and disease. Works simultaneously with the physical body, the breath body, and the energy body. Used in advanced Hatha and Kundalini lineages as a primary awakening practice. Viparita Karani. Formation, legs raised overhead, supported by the hands at the lower back, body at roughly a 45-degree angle. A gentler inversion than shoulder stand. Effect, described classically as reversing the flow of the nectar said to drip from the palate downward into the digestive fire, and thus extending youth and vitality. Physiologically, reversal of gravitational direction promotes lymphatic drainage, reduces lower limb edema, activates parasympathetic response, and decompresses the lumbar spine. One of the few full-body mudras suitable for regular daily practice. Khechari mudra. Formation, the tongue is rolled back and upward, touching the soft palate and eventually the nasal cavity. This is a practice developed over years, not forced. Effect, among the most revered and most esoteric mudras in classical tantra. The classical texts promise that one who masters Khechari escapes hunger, thirst, disease, and death. Physiologically, pressure on the palate and nasopharynx stimulates the vagus nerve, triggers saliva production, and activates Bindu Visarga, the point at the back crown associated with the downward flow of consciousness. This mudra is not self-taught. Ashwini mudra formation, rhythmic contraction and release of the anal sphincter, practiced in rhythm with the breath. Effect, named for the horse's ability to contract and release the anal region at will. Strengthens the pelvic floor, stimulates the lower digestive tract, supports the root chakra, and activates Apanavayu, used in preparation for more advanced Mula Bandha practice. Part 5. Face, eye, and Bandha mudras. Formation, fixed unblinking gaze on a single point, traditionally a candle flame, a yantra, or a black dot. The classical texts also describe mudras of the face, specific positions of the eyes, the tongue, and the breath locks that alter awareness states directly. These are among the most powerful and least discussed elements of the tradition. Shambhavi mudra formation. Eyes soft closed or gently open. The gaze turns upward and inward to the point between the eyebrows without strain. Effect, one of the highest practices in tantric yoga. Stimulates the pituitary gland and the optic nerve connections to the hypothalamus. Practiced in meditation to deepen awareness of the third eye center. Sadhguru of the Isha Foundation has made this practice widely known. It is central to their inner engineering curriculum. Research from Isha Foundation studies shows measurable EEG gamma wave increases during Shambhavi practice. Nasikagra Drishti formation. Both eyes gently converge to focus on the tip of the nose. Effect, activates the optic chiasm, the crossing point where the optic nerves meet and share information between hemispheres. Creates hemispheric synchronization, used in specific pranayama practices to steady the mind and reduce mental agitation. Tritaka, effect, described in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika as one of the Shatkamas but also as a mudra of awareness. Strengthens concentration, purifies the visual field, clears accumulated mental impressions, and in sustained practice opens third eye awareness. Practice for 5 to 30 minutes, ending when tears flow naturally. Part 6. How to practice timing, duration, and protocol. General guidelines. Duration. Therapeutic hand mudras require sustained hold to be effective, generally 15 to 45 minutes per session. This can be done during meditation, pranayama, or while in contemplative rest. Brief holds of a few minutes will create a shift in mood. Deeper healing work requires longer holds over consistent daily practice. Consistency. Classical texts and modern research agree. The effects of mudras are cumulative. 4 weeks of daily practice appears to be the threshold at which neurological changes become measurable. Practitioners report noticeable subjective shifts within 10 to 14 days of consistent daily practice. Posture, the hands should rest comfortably, on the knees or thighs during sitting practice, in the lap during supine practice. There should be no tension in the arms, shoulders, or wrists. The mudra itself should feel effortless. Both hands. Most therapeutic mudras are practiced with both hands simultaneously unless otherwise specified. This creates bilateral stimulation of the nervous system and equal activation of both meridian pathways. Pressure, finger contact in mudras should be gentle, like a light handshake between the fingertips, not a firm press. The exception is gua sha adjacent techniques and bandhas. Awareness, the mudra is most effective when paired with breath awareness and conscious intention. Forming the hand position while distracted produces less effect than forming it while breathing deliberately and directing attention to the quality or area you intend to influence. Elemental balance, reading your own needs. One of the most practical frameworks from Hasta Mudra Vigyan is elemental self-assessment. When a particular element is out of balance, specific symptoms arise. Identifying the imbalance guides mudra selection: excess or deficient fire, excess, inflammation, fever, anger, acid reflux, skin rashes. Use Prithvi Mudra to cool. Deficient, cold extremities, sluggish digestion, low motivation, depression. Use Surya Agni Mudra. Excess or deficient air, excess, anxiety, racing thoughts, joint pain, gas, insomnia, erratic energy. Use Vayu Mudra. Deficient mental dullness, poor circulation, breathlessness. Use Jayan Mudra. Excess or deficient space, excess, spaceness, dissociation, lack of groundedness. Use any earth mudra. Deficient rigidity, inability to expand, tunnel vision. Use Akasha Mudra. Excess or deficient earth, excess heaviness, weight gain, lethargy, attachment. Use Surya Mudra. Deficient bone weakness, hair loss, skin dryness, existential instability. Use Prithvi Mudra. Excess or deficient water, excess edema, excess mucus, congestion, emotional overwhelm. Use Varun Mudra. Cautiously add Surya. Deficient, dry skin, dehydration, stiff joints, emotional drought. Use Varun Mudra. Closing, the hands are always with you. Every tradition that has developed the art of mudra arrived at the same foundational recognition: the body is not the container of the sacred, it is the instrument of it. The hands, in particular, are a site of extraordinary intelligence, neurologically dense, energetically active, expressive beyond language. The hand can shape itself into a tool, a weapon, a cradle, or a prayer. It can build and destroy, and it can seal the self in configurations that shift consciousness, heal the body, and open the inner world. What thousands of years of practitioners discovered, and what modern science is beginning to measure, is that these shapes are not arbitrary. They are maps written in the geometry of the hand. They activate circuits in the brain. They trace meridians that have been observed for millennia. They engage the nervous system in states that the body knows how to use, states of healing, clarity, rest, and awakening. The practice is available to you at any moment, in the dark before sleep. You carry every mudra with you always, your hands are waiting. From my research, the more I studied the hands, the more I understood why so many spiritual traditions converge there. No tool the human being uses is more intimate than the hand, and no tradition that honors the body could long ignore it. Mudras are not the most natural thing, the mind learning to shape itself through what it already holds. This document is part of the Halagricity personal reading series. Explore the full library at Halagricity IQ.